All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to get this thing started. On behalf of the parents group and the candidates sitting up here, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate your attendance. We tried to go live here. It didn't really work due to signal, so if any of you would like to go live, it's up to you. We are recording this, so it will be online later.
If I can figure that out.
Brian can figure out anything. He's a great guy. So we're just going to go over a few rules real quick and how we're going to run the meeting. We're going to run a town hall style meeting. So people can line up here, and then you guys can come up and ask your questions. Each candidate is going to have 3 minutes, if needed, to answer your questions. Prior to that, actually, they are going to have a 3-minute introduction where they are going to introduce themselves to you. And I guess that's really the gist of it. We're not here to rewrite policy, to write policy. That's not what this is about. This is to get to know the candidates. We'd also like to appreciate the fact that if someone is up here speaking, that we're not yelling out from the crowd. We're not going to do that tonight. Not tonight. We'll save that for the board meeting. You know what I'm saying? Yes.
Are all the candidates that are on the ballot, are they up there tonight?
No.
Okay.
No, not all the candidates are here. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass the mic off here. The order is going to be, I had them select their seats, so they didn't know, but the order is going to be left to right. So whenever you ask a question to the candidates, you have to pick your specific candidate. If you're addressing the whole group, the order is going to be from left to right, or they're right to left. Good nice thing, no talking from the crowd. Here we go.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for those of you who have come out tonight, and thank you to those of you who are watching online, hopefully later tonight when it gets uploaded. My name is Jenniffer Lewis-Gallagher, and I am running as a write-in candidate for the school board. I'm probably the most recent candidate who's come out just 3 weeks ago in response to the crisis by which we've been faced. Hopefully a familiar face from the last couple of board meetings in that I've brought some issues before the board. I do have a complicated last name in that you can see it's hyphenated. It's Lewis-Gallagher. And I did receive written confirmation from the Board of Elections today that all name variants without the hyphen Jenniffer Lewis, Jenniffer Gallagher will be formally counted as a vote. So I just wanted to clarify that because that's been a question that's been posed to me frequently. I've been active over the last month or so in terms of working on issues of communication, policy, and safety and welfare, and I won't share a lot of details unless I'm asked. But just some of the agencies that I've been in touch with just as a private citizen over the last month. The New Jersey School Boards Association, Gloucester County, the Department of Education at the state level, DIFAS, or now DCPMP, and a number of watchdog agencies. I'm a mom to 2 daughters, Rhiannon in the 6th grade at WMS, Ainsley 4th grade, now attending WHS. I've been a volunteer at Holly Glen, doing a variety of cultural and experiential volunteer work there. I participated in strategic planning at the Monroe Township district level. There is now a strategic plan that was approved for the years 2015-2020 that I'm seeking to obtain because it's not available currently on the website, something that I'd like to revisit. I've done some navigation and gifted education, including offering public testimony to the Department of Education at the state level. A bit about my professional background. I've been in the scientific information industry for most of my career, selling scientific information solutions to mostly the federal government. I've worked with the Department of Defense. I've worked with the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health. I have specific expertise and capabilities that I think might assist me in this pursuit, including contract negotiation and review, data analysis and interpretation, and certainly effective communication. In fact, that is my formal training as an undergrad. I also have my MBA from Rutgers University. I consider myself in data collection mode at this point. I've been pursuing a variety of information via OPRA, which is the Public Records Act. I've been meticulously reviewing former board meeting minutes. I've been reading about board responsibilities and roles to make sure I have a firm understanding of what my responsibilities would be, and so I can ask informed questions as to how and why the board operates the way that they do. Some of the things that I would like to pursue, if elected, include a revisitation of the district goals, that strategic plan that I mentioned, a review of the long-range facility plan. I'd like to propose a forensic audit be conducted. I'd like to review contracts. I'm finding that a number of contracts have been appropriated on a non-fair and non-competitive basis. I'd like to better understand that, especially our insurance policy that year on year is contracted as an extraordinary, unspecifiable service. I'd like to better understand what that means. I'd like to ask the board if there's been a recent self-evaluation in terms of how they've conducted business. I'd like to better understand that. And finally, I'd like to review ethics policy and code of ethics as it pertains to the board and the administration in the context of superintendent evaluation. These are just some of the thoughts that I've put together over the past 3 weeks as I've come out as a write-in candidate for the board. My platform is simply conflict-free and information-based. I don't possess any conflicts. Probably the most challenging thing is you won't find my name on the ballot. You'll have to write my name in. Hopefully you'll get the spelling right, and if not, the Board of Elections tells me that it'll count anyway. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being active participants.
Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Mercanti. As the youngest candidate seeking to a seat on the Board of Election, I feel as though I'll bring some fresh ideas, and I am a parent and an uncle of young children either attending the school system or will be attending the school system. And I just want to make this school district an environment where students can thrive just as I did when I attended. The one reason I am not running is for political reasons. I don't intend to use this as a political stepping stone. I have no hidden agenda, and this is not for my political personal ambitions. A little bit about my educational background. I'm a 2003 graduate of Williamstown High School and one of the first classes to complete the WHS Engineering Academy. I attended Rowan University where I received a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering, and then in 2009 I earned a Master of Arts in Engineering Management with a concentration in Project Management. My work experience has given me skills that will make me an effective board member. As a supervisor, I do not just oversee employees. I encourage people to work together toward a common goal by identifying best skills. Representing a group, you must take into consideration all viewpoints and potential outcomes before making a decision. Another skill set I will bring to the board is project management and budgeting. On a daily basis, I manage many budgets, some totaling millions of dollars. As a board member, I will see creative ways to better utilize the school budget in order to fund essential programs. These programs include, but are not limited to, full-day kindergarten and preventative maintenance. Considering the diverse economic makeup of Monroe Township School District, there are some parents that may be able to pay out of pocket for full-day kindergarten. However, there are many that do not have this financial advantage. Our students are missing out on the opportunity to develop strong literacy and social skills. Most districts in our most districts in our area already provide full-day kindergarten. Also, preventative maintenance must be included in the next budget to help keep our buildings healthy and avoid the crisis we're currently having. As a result of my mother working in the district, I recognize there may or may not be potential conflict of interest in certain votes, such as those pertaining to the superintendent. However, according to the Monroe Township Board of Education policy and the New Jersey Department of Education, sections, 18A 12-24, no conflict of interest exists. I would nonetheless seek the advice of the board council before I participate in any such vote to ensure I am in accordance with my ethical obligations. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for being here tonight at Oak Knoll. This is where I first started many years ago, too many to mention. My name is Fred Powell, and I've been a resident of Williamstown my entire life. Graduated from WHS in 1972, attended Rutgers University, and graduated in 1976 with a BA in Social Studies. I obtained my secondary education certification from Glassboro State College in 1978, and my elementary education certification from Rutgers University in 1978 as well. I began teaching here at Oak Knoll in 1978 in the middle school and taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for 13 years. I then went on to teach AP and Honors History at Williamstown High School for 23 years. As well as teach, I also did a lot of coaching. I coached soccer, football, baseball, boys basketball, girls basketball, and was the varsity softball coach for 23 years. I had the good fortune of winning 2 back-to-back state softball championships, 2008 and 2009, and 7 Tri-County Conference championships. I was the Courier Post, Gloucester County Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, and South Jersey Girls Softball Association Coach of the Year several times. I was inducted into the Gloucester County Athletic and South Jersey Girls Softball Association Hall of Fame. In 2014, I was the WHS Teacher of the Year. I chaperoned many school dances, skating parties, junior and senior proms, high school winter, freshman, sophomore dance, went on several junior class trips to Virginia and 1 senior trip to Florida. I retired from teaching in 2014 after 36 years of teaching and coaching at Williamstown. I believe that I have many strengths that would be assets as a school board member. As mentioned in my profile, I believe that my educational experiences and background knowledge in many areas will allow me to make an informed decision that will be in the best interest of the students, faculty, and administration of the Monroe Township community. I believe that many of my former students and their parents will vote for me for no other reason than I am the one who helped shape their child and prepare them to be successful in college and in life. With my experience in the classroom, on the athletic field, and on the basketball court, I believe that I have the strengths that the community desires in a board member. I dedicated my life to the education profession. I taught in 3 different buildings, Oak Knoll, the middle school, and the high school. I take a great deal of pride in every aspect of my commitment to this community, and I have no hidden agenda. I am retired and have the time to volunteer my services as an elected board member. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tasha Williams. I'm from Williamstown. I graduated from Williamstown High School in 1996. I am a teacher. I teach in Atlantic City School District. I teach 4th grade currently. I've been teaching for 15 years. I've taught every grade from 2nd to 8th. Just a little bit about my background education. After high school, I went to Seton Hall University. My undergrad is actually in business management, and my master's is in education. I have my master's degree from Cheney University. I have 3 kids, 1 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, and I have a nephew also at the middle school. I was a coach for 2 years for cheerleading for Monroe, for the little girls. I also volunteer with the Huddle Club, and I'm still currently volunteering with them whenever services are needed. I basically decided to run just to give my, as a parent, to give my voice, and also as an educator to give whatever input I can give on that aspect of it. I've been thinking about running for the board for a couple of years now. The reason that the thought came to mind was being a teacher and seeing the Board of Education in my own district where I work. That made me want to volunteer and do things in my own school district. So I did start doing that by first starting to attend more meetings at the schools my kids go to. I go to the Parent Advisory Board meetings, So I said, you know what, I wanna be more involved. How can I be more involved? Then I began to start going to the Board of Education meetings. Maybe about a year ago, I started going periodically. Within the last 6 months, I've been going to every single meeting. And I've been getting educated more by going to those meetings, by looking into things, and just by hearing the community's voice. I have no hidden agenda of why I want to run. I am strictly running to benefit the kids. I would like to make decisions that will benefit them and their school and our community. I want to be a voice for the community. So if I were to win, I would like to hear concerns from the community on different issues. And hopefully I can take your concerns into consideration for things that have to be voted upon. I do not have any family members that work in the district, at the school, so I have no conflicts on that part. So I would be allowed, as far as I know, to vote for whatever needed to be voted upon. When I decided to run, I spoke with a couple of other people that are also running, and we talked amongst each other and kind of had the same views and opinions. And so we decided to run together, and that's why you do see our name together on the signs. I just want to thank you guys for coming out and hearing me, and if you have any questions for me, just let me know. I will answer them to the best of my ability. I don't profess to have any, I'm not perfect, and I don't know the answers to everything, but I am open and I'm willing to learn, and that's why I'm here.
Questions to myself. My name is Therese Bonmati. We are running together. Frank Circasio is also running with us. Unfortunately, Black Horse Pike Regional School District has had on the calendar for over a year that tonight is their winter sports parents night, and he just couldn't miss that, but he is going to try to get here if it's still going on. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you all for coming tonight. I want to introduce myself briefly. I am married. I have 3 kids. My parents also live here in Williamstown. And my sister is here as well, and she has married and has 2 kids that also go to our Williamstown Middle School. I also graduated from Williamstown High School way back in 1993. I left Williamstown briefly. I went to school in Washington, D.C. I moved overseas for a year, and then I came back and started teaching here. And I taught in Williamstown for 13 years. And I decided that I wanted to know more about our school system, so I decided to go back for my master's degree in education, and that's what I did. I just felt like I didn't know enough. And that's one of the reasons why I want to be on the board, because I feel like I have learned so much, but there's so much more to learn, and I can offer a lot. So I prepared a little speech. So I'm sure we're all here for the same reason, to make sure our students and community have the best representation that will move our school system in the direction of the 21st century. I'm running because I want to improve the schools. I decided to run last spring, but I knew I wanted to run way over a year ago. I've read the reason why is because I've read board policies that are really old or antiquated. They're not in line where our students are today and where they need to go for tomorrow. And how would I know about board policies? Because as a vice principal in a school district, everything and every decision I make is based on policy. So I can't really make a decision without checking policy and making sure I'm in line with it. So when I see our policies here in Mount Williamstown, I often question them. I worked here for 13 years, and like I said, both of my kids are still in the school system. My son started in the school when he was 3 over at Holly Glen. So my heart definitely belongs to Holly Glen since he spent so many years there. And my daughter went here as well. And one of the things that I've noticed between the difference between elementary school, middle school, and the high school is the attendance policy. It's not really in line with the state policy. I've read the state policy forward and backward a few times, and a lot of what is in our policy isn't in line with the state policy. And I'm sure some parents, as you go from elementary to middle school to high school, are like, how is the policy changing? So that's one of my concerns. The other concern I have is our harassment, intimidation, and bullying practices here in the school district. Often, and I know this for a fact because my son has been the alleged victim of 4 different bullying incidents, and not once did I ever receive a phone call telling me that it was under investigation. I always found out afterwards when I got a letter in the mail, and then I would call and they'd say, oh, yeah, it's all done, it's all settled. Not the best way to handle it. So those are just 2 of the policies that concern me here for the district, and that brings me to the next thing, is accountability. and that I've witnessed over the years a lack of accountability from teachers to administrators, and I don't feel that we use our tenure law that's here in New Jersey now to the best of our ability. Instead of holding people accountable, they just get moved from one building to the next. So I'm getting the signal. So I'm going to pass this over to Dan, and hopefully I'll be able to answer any more questions as they come along. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. Excuse me for feeling a little under the weather. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Glassboro. I went across the street to Rowan University. I got certified as a math teacher and secondary education teacher. I then came back across the street to Glassboro High School and spent the last 15 years there as a mathematics teacher for the Algebra 1, the Algebra 2, our basic skills students, our special ed students, and our kids that are at risk and at danger for failing high school and not passing our state required tests. As you may know, there are many different requirements. One of them is standardized testing, and the state is going through that whole change with the park, and I've been at the forefront of that for the Glassboro school system until this year, when I finally was now promoted and I had the opportunity to be a vice principal at Highlands Regional High School in Blackwood, part of the Blackwood High School District. So, with that said, I've now moved out of teaching and moved into administration. While a teacher for 15 years at Glassboro, I went back in 2008 and got a degree in guidance counseling. That was my first master's degree. And then I went back for my second master's degree in administration. I was heavily involved with the school system. Not only did I teach day school, but I taught the night school program. I was stage crew advisor. I was a class advisor. I was involved with a club called the Friends of Rachel Club, which is an anti-bullying, harassment, intimidation club. And that stems from the first girl who was killed in Columbine. So I brought that to my school system as part of our guidance program that we had. I've been a resident of Williamstown for the last 10 years. I have two daughters. They both attend Radix. They're in the 3rd and 4th grade respectively. I'm heavily involved with the PTA. My wife over there is the treasurer of the PTA. We've been working to merge Holly Blend students and the Radix students, and we had a really awesome event last Friday night with the Halloween dance for all of the kids attending. Pretty amazing. As a platform for the district, I'm not related to anybody, and I would have no conflict of interest with anything that's involved with the school district. For the last 3 years, I've been working with the Glassboro Board of Ed and seeing what they do and how they're nationally certified, and I'd like to bring that to our school district as we move forward. Things that we need to look at is policy, and we need to be proactive, not reactive as a school district, and that's my goal to bring to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, family and friends that put this evening together. And especially I want to thank all the parents who actually attended the last 3 board meetings. The voices were heard. I heard them. I get it. To tell you a little bit about myself, I was born and raised in Dover, Delaware. Graduated Lake Falls High School out of Belton, Delaware. In 1980, I joined the United States Army, where I served 21 years, serving my country in various different states, various different countries, various different positions, from a squad leader to a platoon sergeant to a first sergeant, and then on to Seoul, South Korea, where I was a force protection based NCOIC, where I went to terrorism, anti-terrorism school, and one of my biggest jobs over there was to coordinate and plan for attacks from North Korea, and to coordinate the evacuation of innocent civilians and family members. I retired. Once I left Seoul, Korea, I went to Fort Iowa, Missouri, where I continued on to college education and got my degree through Central Texas College in Business. Prior to retiring, I moved back here to Williamstown, been here for nearly 18 years. Since I had been here in Williamstown, I have been involved for every day for the last 18 years, from Parks and Recreation to open space to a committee man for my District 7 where I live. One of the biggest accomplishments that I'm proud of when I was a committee man is, if you've ever lived on North Main Street or know anyone that lives on North Main Street, they used to have to go from the odd side of the numbers to the even side of the numbers to get their mail. I actually worked for the United States Postal Service, so that was a big issue for me, and I was even told by the post office that I had to stop what I was doing because I was costing the company money. But that didn't bother me. It wasn't the fact of who I was costing money, it was the fact that I needed to make sure those residents on North Main Street were safe. I gave them that commitment when I became that committee man. And that's exactly what I did with help of council. And some of the biggest ones that helped me do that was Councilman Frank Caligiuri, Councilman now Mayor Dan Teefee. So we got all involved in that. I've been on the Board of Education for the last 7 years. 5 of them as the RC chairman. My daughter went to Howard Glen. My wife and daughter volunteer at Howard Glen. For us to be in a situation that we are in is unforgivable. I have utilized my board seat to work with my fellow board members where I could, but I have also amassed a serious number of no votes because I could not agree with what the administration was doing. It wasn't right for our kids, it wasn't right for our school district, and if re-elected, I continue to fight for our kids. So again, thank you for coming out, and whatever questions you have, I'll be more than happy to answer for you. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, one more hand for him. I'm going to open this up to the public now. Like I said, it is going to be a town hall forum, so you guys are going to be able to answer questions. If you could, like I said, they have three minutes to answer your question. If you could hold yourself to possibly 2 questions, that would be phenomenal. If you have time during the end, you can definitely get back up. We're not going to restrict you on getting back up, but we're going to look for time at the end. We also have some questions that were emailed to us that we would like to ask, so after the public forum of this, we're going to ask a few of the email questions. If you have questions, you guys can start lining up right here.
You got a question? Imagine that.
All right, I'm going to give the microphone up here, so if you guys could, when you ask your question, just speak up a little bit so everyone could hear. I just want them to have the ability to be able to transfer this without passing back and forth.
Good evening to everybody. Some of you know me, some I'll stay back here if I take a swing at me. I'm Rick Jankowski. And with some help of other people, helped put this together.
All right, yeah, it's not going to work.
They only gave you one microphone, sorry.
They're pointing the right way. So anyway, I just want to thank all you guys for wanting to do this, because you know, in 6 months, whoever does win, we're probably not going to like you again. So I'm grateful to that you're willing to give up your time to help our district. Reason I came up first is I figured let's get the $1 million question out of the way. Mr. Simpler, this whole town knows where you stand. Based on the current events with the mold and everything, and the fact of the matter is that we know that certain people in the administration knew about this for well over a year. It's a yes or no answer. Every candidate can take a shot at it. If you are elected to the board and a motion comes up to dismiss or terminate the contracts of Mr. Erling, Mr. Ross, and Mr. Sullivan, would you second the motion? And if it comes to vote, would you vote to terminate? Thank you.
Way to get us started, Rick. Thank you. So I'm going to give a very politically astute response, perhaps. I think I'd want to scrutinize the information available and treat each of them separately. I would lead the motion to dismiss Charles Erling. I would like to review more data with regard to Mr. Ross and Mr. Sullivan. My belief currently, based on the information that I have, and like I described, I'm still in data collection mode and analyzing emails that I've received, board meeting minutes. There's quite a plethora to review. I do believe that they had on good authority that there were multiple issues, and it's not just mold, it's a multitude of other issues. So I'm gonna say yes, I would. I would lead the motion for Charles Erling's dismissal, and I would seek to launch an investigation concerning other parties involved. Thank you.
The first thing I would want to do is have an objective investigation done. I don't want to ruin anyone's livelihood. I've been involved with terminations before. It's not easy. I've been through grievances. It's not easy. I don't want to do that to people. However, if based on the investigation that they are found guilty of what they're being accused for, then it's a simple answer. The answer is yes.
As a teacher, we are held to a high accountability, and our actions are certainly looked upon by the community. There are various ways to look at a situation and administer the correct or the most appropriate result, whether it be perhaps holding back a pay. I know teachers can have that happen to them if they're in misconduct. It could be something in the pay. But I think the first thing, and most importantly, there are people that have to be held accountable. There has to be kind of like an impartial review, and you have to look at all the evidence. As I said, I'm not making any promises. I'm not allowed to do that. But I will take the knowledge that I have, working with the board that I have, and make the right decision. Thank you.
With all the information that we know now, and hopefully there will be other things that are presented that will also give more information for Mr. Erling and Mr. Ross, it would be a yes from me. For Mr. Sullivan, I would like to investigate information on him a little bit more, only because he answers to people above him. He is not the highest, so he does not make the final decision. So I would give him a more thorough investigation to see where he stood, what he knew, when this information, and if he indeed did the right thing at the right time, as far as everything that's happening. But you have to look at the top person and what decisions they made. What we know now, it looks that way. Again, there would have to be more investigating, but for me, it would be a yes.
When I decided to run, way back when, one of the things that I was dissatisfied was with the infrastructure at the central administration level in the district. And one of the few things that a Board of Education member can actually do is decide who the superintendent's going to be. That's their number one job. They don't pick anybody else. They pick the superintendent, and from there, the superintendent builds his team. And I have to say that I've been dissatisfied for quite a while with the central administration. So before all this mold happened, when people called and asked me, why are you running? And you can ask any of them. I told them that was why I was running. I'm dissatisfied. With that being said, and I thought I was going to have to wait until his contract was up, but now we have to seriously do an investigation and see how much he actually did know. I know that Mr. Ross, one of his job responsibilities, because I've read his job responsibilities, is that of overseeing plant management. He obviously failed to do so, and I believe his contract is on a year-to-year basis. And I also feel that we never had human we never had a human relations director before until all of a sudden his 2 years ran out of being the interim assistant superintendent. So, gotta make a new job up for something. So that's what happened. And that's another one of those things that I'm dissatisfied with our central administration. I feel like we're throwing a lot of money at people that I don't know what their real purpose is. As far as Mr. Sullivan goes, I have to also agree with Tasha. You know, in the end, he did give the information to his administration above him. Is he fully qualified for the job? That's something I also want to look at and see, you know, how did he get that job? Because that job didn't exist before Mr. Gallagher came around, and that was when they were building the high school, and they moved him from being a vice principal to being the head of plant management, and I'm not really sure what his qualifications were for that, but it was a job that was created back in the late 90s, and when he retired, a lot of us thought that that position would just disappear, and then all of a sudden Mr. Sullivan had a job. So there's a lot of jobs that all of a sudden appear, and I've mentioned that at board meetings, that all of a sudden these jobs appear, and I don't know what the reason for them are. So that's another reason why I'm running, is to look at these jobs that we keep creating, and yet telling us we can't have full-day kindergarten. So, yes.
Obviously, I echo everything that everyone else up here has already said. By now, I'm not going to tell you anything new that you haven't already heard. However, there is a due process that needs to be followed in regards to every person that we're investigating or looking at throughout the district. And that's something that, as a math teacher, being an analytical person, and now vice principal, and having to analyze the policy and, you know, give out, say, punishment if it's a discipline matter, or put that policy into place and into use, those are the things we need to look at first. Because if we just go haphazardly as a Board of Ed and start to remove people and start to do a whole bunch of things, that could turn around and cost the school district a lot more money in litigation, which then comes back to the taxpayer in your dollars. And I don't want to see that happen. Once a thorough investigation is done, you know, and the findings are what they are, if there was a motion for Mr. Early or Mr. Ross, I would have to back that. I would totally second the motion or lead it if I had to, if I was on that committee for the investigation to head that up. And I would stand for their removal if that was where it was. In regards to Mr. Sullivan, there's been a lot of questions about his certifications. And those are the first things I want to look and see, because I want to go through this whole district and find out who's certified for what and where we can cut the extra stuff from that, you know, is hurting us as a whole. When you have people with 2 and 3 and 4 different job titles and they're just collecting more and more and more every year, that's affecting all of us negatively. And I'm not going to let that happen.
Rick, first of all, thank you for that question. I think I've made my position very clear where I stand on this issue. In regards to Charles Irwin and in regards to Ralph Ross, absolutely not only would I second it, but I would be right out there making that motion. In regards to David Sugg, Ralph Ross, for one, I mean, there's $137,000 a year that we can save. We're just throwing that away. In regards to Dave Sullivan, that's a different issue in its own. Yes, there are things out there we need to look into. Yes, there are things that, what did he say, what did he know, what did he tell? And yes, there needs to be an independent investigation, not something that we do internally. We need to do it from the outside. We need to have an outside investigation coming here. And I've already made it clear. I am a fighter, and I'm not gonna stop fighting until each and every one of those people that this issue touches is gone. Thank you.
Thanks again, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out here, and you guys who organized it. And I guess I have two things I want to bring up, and I wanted to come here and just like not like the people that are teachers that are running for the board, and you guys have done a great job, made some great points, so again, thank you for that. And I guess my feeling coming to this, and when I see people are associated with the schools, about, you know, is it like the fox watching the hen house, or, you know, can we be assured you're doing what's right for the community as opposed to the union? And that's I guess that was one of my, you know, things I was concerned about. And so, you know, in regards to even like the moving around of the principals, you know, we have a high school principal that moved to, I believe it was a elementary school, but, and again, you guys are educators, maybe you can educate me. Does she get brought back down to that level of salary? No. So, I mean, that to me was, again, something, mismanagement and almost like, you know, payback for something, I don't know. That was something I disagreed. And again, being you know, if you guys can fill, is that something that the school board passes, or is that something that is done by the superintendent? Like a decision like that. Whoever wants to answer.
Sir, thank you for that question. And let me be upfront and let there be no doubt. That was a recommendation from the superintendent to the Board of Education. The Board of Education actually makes that vote once the superintendent brings us that issue. But I can absolutely and unequivocally sit here and say how proud I am of saying no to that vote.
In regards to your question about the principal being moved down from the high school level to the elementary level because their salary dropped down, the salary stays with them. However, if they are at a certain level, let's just say $100,000, an elementary principal is maybe making $85,000, they stay at that $100,000 mark until the salary guide catches them. They don't get any raises, they don't get longevity, they're frozen in that spot until the salary guide catches them. Or they then move up into, say, central administration, as some of them may have certificates of not only as principals, but then you go into chief school administrator. Then the salary could change. Or if they go back to the high school setting, then the salary could change based on that and what your responsibilities are.
One of the reasons, and if anybody was at that board meeting when Mr. Erling was explaining why the switch happened, he didn't really give a good explanation except that he just wanted to move people, and he could. He was very clear in saying it wasn't disciplinary, not disciplinary. The reason why he kept repeating that is because it's against board policy to transfer a employee from one building to another as a result of a disciplinary action. There have been whisperings that he had reasons to do it as disciplinary, but he made sure he did not say that. And I believe that he gave the Board of Education members reasons why it was disciplinary, but then it never came to public view. And it may be retaliatory in a sense. So he could not take away anyone's salary or transfer them with it being disciplinary at the same time. And in response to your question about foxes watching the hen house, one of the reasons why I became an administrator is because, and I love teaching, and don't get me wrong, and I miss it every single day, is that students will come to me and complain about lazy teachers. And unfortunately, in any job you go to, any career you're in, you're gonna find people that just don't give 100%. And one of the reasons why I wanted to become an administrator was to hold teachers accountable to putting 100% to what they did every single day. So yes, I was a part of NJA, I'm no longer, therefore it's not a conflict for me to vote on any NJEA contracts with teachers. I'm part of a bargaining unit at my level, however, I'm not negotiating. I don't negotiate, therefore it's not a conflict for me to vote on any principal changes or hiring principals or principal salaries or supervisor salaries or teacher salaries. So I don't have any conflicts in those areas. But I think because I know what's expected of teachers and of administrators, I think I can hold them accountable in a way that a lot of people that are not in education can't hold them accountable because not everyone knows what they're supposed to do. And I also know tenure law, where I can help guide and make sure the other board members understand tenure law as well, and they can make sure that when these kind of votes that came up, where Mr. Sipper voted no, they could have either said no or abstained, and then no change could have happened.
I was going to answer too, the fox running around in the hen house. I've often wondered why there isn't a teacher on the Board of Education. In my time, I mean, my son asked me one day, you know, Dad, how come you were never a volunteer fireman like your father? Well, when my father was a volunteer fireman and the whistle blew, he ran to the fire. I would not have found that, I would not have been able to keep my job running to the fire and leaving the classroom behind. So I decided that I would try to volunteer in another way, and this is a volunteer position. And I'll bet Bill Gates doesn't have board members that don't know how to use a computer. So with my expertise and my background, it may look like the fox running the hen house, but you're looking at somebody that's been in many buildings, been around for 36 years, lived in Williamstown all my life, you know, taught most of the kids and the parents, and I think for me, it's kind of like completing that circle of life. I went to school here, taught here, and now I like to be on the board.
I'm gonna have a short answer because most of the beginning part of your question was answered already. It's fact-based. The fox running the hen house, unfortunately, I would have to abstain from any vote with the teachers union because my mother is part of that union. So that would be the conflict for me. But everything else would be sorry.
I'm sorry, real quick. The first part of the question was already answered, but the second part, just to piggyback off of what Mr. Powell said, in my own school district, as far as the school board making policies, I kind of wonder if any educators was on my own school district because they were voting on things that have to do with the teachers, but did they have any background expertise on what exactly went into it? And that piqued my interest and is why I decided to run too, to see, you know, are there any educators on the school board? And I know a lot of people think that's maybe a conflict, whereas I would think the opposite because you can give input on things they may not know about. So that was kind of why I wanted to run along with being a parent and a resident in the district, just to give input on that. As far as same thing, the fox running, what was it, running the hen house? Right. For the union issue, or NJEA, I don't think that would be a problem because every district is different as far as when contracts and stuff come up. It's different. I'm not involved in any of that stuff in my own school district, so it wouldn't be a conflict for me as well.
And last but not least, so fortunately this isn't an issue for me. This analogy doesn't even fit because I'm in mixed company. I'm the token businesswoman at the table. So I think that's a distinctive competency in business speak. And I think that's my business lens and the context from which I've worked kind of sets me apart from the traditional educational lens. I tend to ask a lot of questions. I want to understand, like I mentioned earlier, the how and the why. Why do we do business this way? Why is this effective? Why does this work? I share that I've only been kind of out for about 3 weeks. In fact, I've been attending board meetings for the last couple of years. I mentioned my participation in the strategic planning initiative. That was board approved per the minutes. I don't think it actually came to fruition. I don't feel that we actually have a strategic plan from which we're operating. So like I said, I'd like to review the district goals and understand how the board is holding, administration accountable and operationalizing that strategy. One thing that I wanted to share, the question was posed with regard to the salary. I don't think you, Dan, used the word freeze, but the salary range would be preserved. That's a business issue for me because I don't believe the same thing is applicable to teachers. I understand through their negotiations with the board, they get stuck at steps for multiple years without pay raise. So I think that we need some business scrutiny and normalization there, if you will. So again, not so much an issue for me. I think the business perspective that I have lends itself quite uniquely to this company. Thanks for your question.
Sure, nothing more question.
Yeah, and I guess in a perfect world, we could be great to have a business mix with some educators on board. So the other thing is, in regards to sports, and you know, our town, I think we're all very proud of our sports teams. We all want to see them succeed. But I've been a coach, you know, through youth, and some of the things I've seen, I'm just like, you gotta be kidding. Like, I've seen Monroe Township police grab, you know, have to come because a coach grabbed an 8-year-old kid by the arm because he was, it was just crazy, screaming at kids. People thinking this is the World Series. I mean, me personally, I think there's a way to win and win right, and win without degrading or putting athletes down. Unfortunately, I have, my daughter does play, and there's been, I think, you know, we bring up about bullying, but I would just love to see something, some sort of education for coaches on how to coach today. This isn't the 1960s, rub some dirt on them, screaming in her face mask or whatever. And there are some parents that, well, we got to toughen them up, and there's ways to toughen up kids without, you know, tearing them down. So I guess I don't know if you got the Board of Education, how does that, is there any trickle down in terms of the athletics? I mean, we've already seen and we've heard because of the mold with you know, the fields, the turf fields, that money, you know, well, we're looking at turf fields, but we're not looking at, you know, the heating and air conditioning over at the school that really needs it. So I know sports is very, very big in this town. So again, as an educator, you know, if you can let me know, what is the school board's functionality with regards to coaches, sports within, you know, within the school district?
Thank you. We're going to go the same direction, and then we'll switch up on the next one.
Thank you for that question, sir. To answer, I've been a member of the NJSIAA for as long as I've been here in New Jersey. I referee high school basketball, football, baseball, softball, as well as minor youth sports, softball, baseball, basketball. If your question is gearing more towards the middle school and the high school levels, then those are issues that could come before the Board of Education, and we would be able to make the appropriate steps to deal with such coaches such as that. But if you're talking, like you mentioned, an eight-year-old, if you're talking Monroe Township youth sports, that's something we just don't get involved in because it doesn't.
I'm talking high school.
Okay, well, if you talk.
I just use that as a try to park. In other words, what I've seen out there in coaching ranks.
Okay, well, if you're talking about high school, then there's a lot that the Board of Education can do if issues like that ever come across our table. But we would have to, it's not like we're gonna go out looking for them. If they come to our attention, then we can actually deal with it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if there's something that we know before we even hire them, then we have that right to express our opinion as to why we're voting no. And I personally, in my 7 years on the board, have actually voted no to a couple of coaches for incidences that I had found out about that I just didn't feel comfortable hiring that person. And look, I mean, nobody cares about these kids and spends as much time with them on a football field, baseball field that I did. There are ways you have to actually conduct yourself. And if those, again, if they come up to us, we can deal with them. But if we don't know about it, there's just simply nothing we can do about that. But yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. There are all kinds of things we can do. But we would have to know about the case before and look into it before we just make a rush decision on it. Right? Hope that answers your question.
In regards to high school sports, as being a coach, the coaches get approved usually by a committee headed by the athletic director for middle school and high schools. Once the coaches are finally approved, They then have to have certain certifications and trainings, first aid, CPR, stuff like that. Those are all general certifications. But any good athletic director and good coach is going to try to better themselves professionally through, say, going to a clinic or some type of professional development, which there's all types of things coaches need. There's things, being in the Tri-County that they have certain coaches have to go to certain meetings, certain times to learn certain policies. There's things that come down from NJSIA, and the coaches need to be informed of that. If the coaches aren't going to those meetings, then they're not fit to supervise our children and coach them to the best of their ability. So, as a board member, I would first go to the athletic director to see who my coaches are, and then find out what trainings they've attended and how recently they've done that. Because certifications, some are good for 1 year, some are good for 2 years, some every season you have to be recertified for. So those are the things that we would have to, as a board, look at and make sure those things are in place. Now, there are certain circumstances where you may have a sport that you just don't have a coach for, and you almost, I don't want to say it's like put a warm body in that position, but if we want that sport as a town and as a school, we will find somebody who is willing to step up and do the best that they can for that position at time. And you have to take them all on a case-by-case basis.
I'm just gonna reiterate that. I think usually what happens is if there's a problem with the coach, that the parent should approach the athletic director. If that point that they're not satisfied with the athletic director, then they would go to the principal. If they're not satisfied with the principal's answer, they would go to the superintendent. And if you feel as though the superintendent's not informing the Board of Education about what's going on, then you have your right to contact the Board of Education so that the Board of Education members can make their own inquiries. So it just goes through the chain of command.
Just having coached for the township and for a school, when I coached for a school, I had to be approved by the board. So, like he said at the end, they have to approve you. So, according to your qualifications, once you're approved, you do have to get certifications. Even for town, there are certain certifications that I had to get, such as I had to do CPR class, different things. So you have to follow through with whatever the qualifications are for that position. And if the person who wants to coach doesn't do that, then they shouldn't be hired. So that's something that the board has to look at too, especially if they're being paid a stipend. That comes into consideration too. So as a board member, that's what I would look at. And like it was said earlier, it has to be brought to the board. If an incident happens and it's not brought to the board by the school or the athletic director, then there's no way they will know about it. And then depending on the situation will depend on how it's handled. But yes, it should be handled, especially in the circumstance where you were explaining earlier, as far as putting hands on or something like that.
Yeah, coaching certainly has changed over the last 36 years.
Amen.
From when I started until today, yeah. One of the things that your athletic supervisor will do, at the end of the year, you get an evaluation just like you do as a teacher. And he fills out the evaluation, and I know in our particular case, our high school athletic director is always out on the field, always in the basketball court. I mean, he's always out there. That's his job. And he has a form that he fills out, so you get an evaluation, just as if you were teaching in the classroom, you get an evaluation. You coach one sport, 2 sports, you get one for each sport that you coach. And it is tough today. You get that evaluation, and then he sits down with you and goes over any problems that you might have. It's really, really tough to coach today because when you're that coach that you play your best 9 athletes, it's always the 10th one that has a problem with you. And it's sometimes you are blamed for a lot of things that are unwarranted. And there are good coaches that get themselves in trouble. You always read the press, what happens, but you never read the resolution. And I have had friends that have had that happen to them. So it is a very tough situation, but there is an evaluation process, and it does go before the athletic director and the principal and then of course the board, to rehire a person. And it's not a tenure position. So if they don't like what you're doing in year 1 or year 20, you can be dismissed and they can hire somebody else for that job. So it's tough out there today, and I agree with you. There is a lot of change, but I think in our high school, we do have a good program in place with some integrity. So.
I heard your question differently, and it wasn't a reactionary question. I heard the difference between coaching from like Tom Coughlin to say Doug Peterson, who says I gotta love my players up, and some of the classes I think you're talking about or certifications, I think the board can make them mandatory, just as my fellow candidate said that there's certain ones like CPR and first aid, those are mandatory. There are some, you can make courses either preferred or mandatory for, interacting or coaching some classes, and maybe that's something that the board should look into.
Yeah, I essentially agree with my esteemed colleagues here. I don't have any direct experience, and I'm sorry to hear that this is an issue. My girls are still young, and so we've been involved in municipal sports as opposed to school-sponsored sports. I agree with what Jeff said in terms of mandatory required training. I understand that all school district staff, is hired by the board. So I couldn't conceive of how the board couldn't enact, those requirements. Teresa had mentioned earlier about some issues, some dissatisfaction, I think you said, with regard to HIB policy. And I'll certainly second that because our family has experienced lack of communication, lack of effective and timely communication. I think that's a real issue. The reason that I'm so sorry to hear that this exists is Monroe Township, I believe, espouses character education. And that's a bit of a disconnect and double standard to hear that we're holding our children accountable for behavior that they're not seeing emulated, certainly by people, staff that they aspire to. But again, to second and reinforce what Jeff said, it's an issue that needs to be brought to the board for responsiveness. And I'm hoping that in light of where we find ourselves this time of crisis, as I described, that there is more action and I don't want to say lack of apathy, but involvement to bring some of these issues to bear. This is not an isolated problem. There are a multitude of others. And I'm hoping that this is representative of a trend where we see more concerned parents asking really good and important questions on behalf of